So do you feel like the US government is preparing for election-related unrest across the country? And if so, what kind of preparations would they be making?
I, I think certainly it would be reasonable given just the polarity within the U.S. I do know that they're preparing for potential unrest because of the perception that either way this thing goes, it could cause violence. We certainly saw it in 2020. And so I think we're gonna see more of federal government coordination, which I'm not sure is a bad thing. It's when you begin to see things that you go, whoa, wait a minute, we've never had DIA in the mix to push information to state and local partners. You hope there would be accountability and integrity, but again, ensure that happens.
There are a lot of threats out there facing our country and in our country. A lot of the danger is already inside the gates. We've imported tens of millions of illegal aliens that we don't have any idea who they are, what their intentions are. Most are economic migrants looking for more money, but within those groups, there are certainly people who have ill intent against America. We want our intelligence agencies, law enforcement agencies, and even our military to have the capability to protect America. And when so much of our threat is actually inside the country now, are we working against ourselves with the posse comitatus? How do we think about that? Giving them the ability to do what they need to do without stepping on toes.
There's a principle at play here. Never, ever sacrifice freedom for security. You always protect freedom at any cost. Now, that you are 1,000% right. We work some of those issues. We have let people into this country that are bad people. And I think we all feel, man, bad things are coming. And we're already seeing it in the crime that's occurring, not just in major cities. If you notice now, it's coming out to the suburbs. All the things that they said wouldn't happen are happening. And unfortunately, this administration doesn't have any answers for it. We're still in the defund the police mode. We're still in the can't we just provide everything for everybody? And unfortunately, there's not an unlimited pool of money in the U.S. And so I think to your point, Chuck, every American has to own their security these days. And you've been shouting that, and I join you. It is time for every American to be prepared. Your book was well-timed. As we see these groups, which we're seeing with the Venezuelan gangs, they're not just satisfied to be here and victimize Americans. They're already beginning to organize in cities like Chicago and across the country, taking over and kicking out U.S. gangs. And so as you think of it, and that's not paranoia, that's the fact. That's what's happening right here. I like recently one of the political candidates said, how many apartment complexes taken over is too many? And I can't believe we're having this conversation.
Right.
And I feel my heart breaks for those people in those apartment complexes. Do you think they'd choose to be there if they had the resources to get out of there? That's where we are, and that's where it dumbfounds me how many people don't exercise their constitutional abilities to go vote, to go to school board meetings, to stand tall, to contact their representatives. We have an amazing system. You and I have been in places where they would beg to have the system that we have. And so to your point, I think things are going to get more difficult. I pray everybody listening doesn't act out of fear, but just says, I'm going to be that family on the street that's prepared. I train people all over the country, and I stole your line. Everywhere that you go should be safer because you're there. And I believe that.
Yeah, it's a terrible paradox because I think everybody feels it that they don't trust the government and the law enforcement, the most visible agents of the government in our lives. There's increasing distrust for law enforcement. You need them. Certainly, you were a cop for 16 years. We desperately need law and order. And here's what I've found. We want a strong legal system. We want a strong police force that shows up when you call them and that can actually be facilitated to enforce the law. And that's one of the things that is just so sad to see today in so many bastions of left-wing lunacy across the country, that the police cannot enforce the law because they will get thrown under the bus by their own leadership. And in that case, lawlessness wins. The end result of that kind of lawlessness is good people start to say, I guess I have to take matters into my own hands. That's when things get truly deadly. We don't want to get to that point. Where's the off-ramp here? How do Americans think about this in terms of supporting local law enforcement, but keeping a wary eye on their government?
That's really a great question, Chuck. We all struggle with that. We all want to trust our government. They're elected by us, but their primary job is to protect our lives, privacy, and way of life. And at the end of the day, when any of those become infringed upon, it's time for Americans to say, we need a change. I would encourage every one of your viewers, I do this everywhere, if anyone listening has any question as to where the left and the ideology will take you, just pull up the YouTube and see what's going on. Businesses closed. My heart broke for the people that are walking down the street like zombies with open sores. And I mean, it is unbelievable that anyone could say, oh, we're taking care of them. No, you're actually killing them through your policies. And that's sad. I really do believe the off-ramp is when Americans stand up and say, enough already. We're not doing this. We've had a season in American history where speaking up gets you canceled, mocked, fired. Fortunately, we're starting to see people go, no, I'm not doing that anymore. If we believe in righteousness and truth, we stand for righteousness and truth. We go to those school board meetings and say, you will not put these policies on our children. Complacency can cause death because evil rides in and it takes over. And I fear that's where we've been. Now it's time to wake up and say, nope, I'm gonna stand for what I believe in, exercise my constitutional rights to speak freely, protect myself. Unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of folks that are hesitant to talk to the police. That's really sad. And let me say this to your audience. I was a police officer, a federal agent, Secret Service agent. They're all being painted by the same brush, but that's not true. The majority of law enforcement officers go into the profession because they believe in something bigger than themselves and protecting others, keeping others safe. Now, with that said, when you go up the leadership ranks and you start seeing some of the things that are being done in some of these organizations, then you should be concerned. You should be wary. But don't ever forget the importance of going up to that cop on the street. He's just doing or she's just doing their job. They're not thinking about all this stuff and just smiling and saying, thank you for what you do every day. Because I'll guarantee you they're tired of being called thugs and Nazis. Unfortunately, many of them are leaving the profession. And folks, listen clear. You don't want the good ones leaving the profession because they're not feeling supported.
No question about that. How does all this stuff affect or restrict local law enforcement efforts to collect information?
Yeah, that's a great question. Local law enforcement connects or collects information at a tactical level. They are plugged in normally to DHS has some information sharing entities. The FBI runs what's called joint terrorism task forces all over the country where local law enforcement's participating. But largely, law enforcement efforts are street level. They're collecting information on crimes, and it's interesting, though, their value can't be understated because those folks making that one traffic stop has blown open some of the most major cases in the world that we've worked. Their information sharing can largely be uphill to the state and local and the feds, but they've played such a critical role, which to your point, Chuck, we don't want those guys parked at the gas station saying, I'm not going out here and doing my job because I'm not getting sued. I'm not losing my house. I'm not doing all that stuff. And that's where, hey, folks, if we don't support them, that's what's going to happen. Almost every police officer I know is discouraged by how they're being portrayed in the media.
No question. No question. Folks, go to Tim Miller's YouTube channel. It's Lionheart Skills. And Tim does amazing videos where he breaks down actual violent events that have been caught on camera and shows you how to not be that person. Shows you how not to be victimized, how to protect your family, how to secure your home. I highly recommend you check those out. It's at Lionheart Skills on YouTube. Please hit that like button. Hitting those likes tells YouTube that there are a lot of people who want to see this content, and they'll show it to people that haven't seen it before. Tim and I have been talking about my new book, which is called Death of Civilization. And it's only out as a pre-order right now. You can read it as a digital download, but you can't get the hard copy of it yet. We're working on that. But I wanted to get something out before the election. We released it at chuckholton.com. You can go over there and download it. You have to be a supporter of the channel over there on chuckholton.com in order to get it. It's $7 a month to be a supporter of the channel, and you get lots of other things as well, like the other book, which Tim actually wrote the foreword to, which is called The Grace Project. It's about how to help your church form a crisis preparedness team. Tim did a great job with the foreword on that and has been instrumental in helping hundreds of churches across the country become safer by going and training their security teams. And so Tim and his team have been doing that for years. They do a fantastic job. If your church needs help, get a hold of Tim at Lionheart Skills, and they can set something up for you that would help you make your church and your community a whole lot safer. I highly recommend you do that. Thank you for watching.